First item on the agenda, we need to have a roll call to establish quorum. Start on Doug Berliner, member of the board.
I'm Nicole Hastings. I'm IDA board member.
Joe Brazowski, IDA member.
Kevin Zanner, IDA counsel.
Chris Johnston, IDA auditor.
Scott Gardner, IDA.
Jennifer Tishka, IDA staff. Robin Marshalek, IDA staff.
Jim Pierce, IDA staff. Jim Rachowski, IDA board member.
Very good. We do have a quorum. In the absence of our president, I am the vice president. Is it president or chairman? Chairman, so I'm the vice chairman, so I'm in charge of running the meeting. So moving on to number 2, the administrative, a review of the board minutes from January 11th. There are no additions, corrections, or deletions. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Move it as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, to approve the financial reports for January and February. Robin, anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, we did bring in for, some in January and some in February, but we brought in the pilot payments for the Stony Creek, Orangeville Energy and the Noble and Weathersfield Bliss. I'm sorry, Bliss and Weathersfield Noble projects. And we did get those payments out in a very timely manner. Other than that, we didn't have anything out of the ordinary. We started out in January with $43,986 in cash, $2,240,171 in invested funds. We ended up with $146,612 in cash and $2,107,990 in invested funds.
Very good. That's both months.
Yep, that's both months, and on the back is the budget, and
Yep.
we haven't got too far into the year, so
Yeah.
okay as far as we can tell.
There isn't a lot of impact yet.
Right.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the financial reports for January and February 24?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the financial reports. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, 2023 audit presentation by Chris Johnson from EFTR, Empire Fox, Eldridge, Fox, Peretti, and
Cronenberg.
Rodenberg.
Yep.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go through the IDA and the BAC combined today. So before we start, I just want to thank the team for the audit. Went very well this year. Very smooth audit. So see that in the presentation. We're going to start off with the audit wrap document, which should be the first part of your packet. We're going to flip a couple pages to page 3. And really, this kind of summarizes, we were talking before the audit started, this is really the information you want to know about the audit. These audits of the financial statements don't relieve management or those charged with governance of their responsibilities. The objective is to obtain reasonable, not absolute assurance. We did a planning meeting at the beginning of the audit, and there was no changes to our planned audit scope or during our audit plan during the audit. We'll be issuing unmodified opinion. Unmodified opinions are the clean opinions, which is what you're looking for, which is really the main thing you want to hear here today. All records and information were freely available. Everything was straightforward, and the team was great to work with. Joe couldn't be here today, but wanted to say thank you and just said what a pleasure it was to work with everyone. The manager's cooperation during the audit was excellent. We received full access to anything we needed during the audit. As far as open items, we've got the review and approval, which is we're doing here today at the board. The legal letters have been returned. We do have the management representation letters for Jim to sign. I brought those with me today. And then we'll just need to update subsequent events if you're aware of any that we need to add to the reports. For the BAC, the IRS 990 and Chart 500 are due May 15th, so we've still got some time on those. Turning to the next page, as far as accounting practices, policies, and estimates, note 1 to the financial statements is where all your accounting policies are. The accounting policies are consistent with last year. No changes to significant policies, and nothing new was adopted in the current year. Significant accounting estimates. Accounting estimates are a part of every audit. Where we saw as the big accounting estimates is revenue recognition for both the IDA and the BAC, and the allowance for doubtful accounts for the BAC. And there was no changes to the significant changes to those assumptions that were made during the audit that we reviewed. And we think the significant transactions, our disclosures are appropriate as well. As far as corrected and uncorrected misstatements, there's no uncorrected misstatements. There's only 2 journal entries that we had, one for GASB 68, which is the pension journal entry, and the other is GASB 87 for the leases. In talking with Joe prepping for the meeting, one of the things we talked about is Robin's very capable of doing these entries. So Joe said during the audit, he talked to her about the fact that he'd get you the reports, show you where to pull those numbers from. So then on a go-forward basis, you can just post those before year end. So you won't have any journal entries. So that's great. I mean, the fact that those are your only 2 entries really says a lot about your team, and the fact that the numbers, what you're basing your decisions on when you're getting your updates at the beginning of the meeting on the finances, those are accurate numbers. Sometimes we'll go in and there's significant adjustments during an audit. So what you're seeing during the year is really what you're presenting here. These are just some of those GASB adjustments over the top of your numbers. So clean opinion. See, I think that's it as far as correct and uncorrected misstatements. Page 5, we define what the different levels of internal control deficiencies, significant deficiencies, and material weaknesses are. We don't have any to report here today, so this is really just informational. Obviously, the only entries we had were the GASB entries, which we knew about. Nothing to report here as far as internal control on either entity. Page 6 is some of our required communications, some of which we've already touched base on. There was no change to our audit plan. No matters noted during the audit. Violations, possible violations of laws, regulations, risk material misstatement, including fraud risks or complaints that were noted during the audit. We're not aware of any consultations with other accountants, no disagreements with management, no difficulties encountered during the audit. Any communication we have regarding these audits is being done here today. There's not another report. And at the end of the engagement, we do have the representation letters to sign, so we'll be able to issue the reports. And the last item on page 7 is the fact that we remained independent throughout the entire engagement. So that's the bulk of our audit communication letter. I don't know if anyone has any questions before we move on. The next 2 pages are draft audit standard 265 reports. These are really, when I mentioned the material weakness, the different levels of deficiency, these are the reports saying that we don't have anything to report to you. So they're both the same thing, and you can read through them if you want, but that's essentially what they say, is that there's no significant items to report. All right, so the next part of the report is the actual audited financial statements. I'll try to hit the highlights on this, but if you have any questions, just please let me know. The audit report starts right after the index. It's an unmodified clean opinion. That's what you want, is an unmodified opinion. And that does go over 3 pages. There was no changes to the audit report wording this year, which is a good thing. So page 4 is your statement of net position. This is also known as your balance sheet, or your assets and your liabilities. Try to hit some of the highlights here. Your cash is down slightly this year, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that your loans are up and more money was put into CDs in the current year, which you can see your CD, a couple numbers down, your CD numbers are up. One other big changes is the grant receivable last year was for the MAP grant, and that was completed in 2023. And as you can see, the notes receivable current portion is down, but the overall notes receivable net down under non-current assets is up this year. So overall receivables are up. On the deferred outflow side, that's the pension GASB 68 adjustments go through there. And under the current liabilities, really what you're seeing is the MAP grant being completed, why there's less payables in the current year. And the unearned revenue last year included $183,000 for the MAP and gain last year. 2023, only the gain is left. Let's see. Under the non-current liabilities, the 162 is the pension liability actuarial adjustment. Other than that, things are pretty consistent and nothing that was unexpected based on our audit procedures. All right, moving on to page 5. This is the statements of revenue, expenses, and changes in that position. Also, you might know this as your income statement, where we've got the revenues and your expenses. The highlight here, your fees and penalties are really going to be project dependent and fluctuate year over year. The one big change over the prior year is the grant revenue, and that was really the MAP being completed in the current year. And you go down to the expenses, your grant expense is up. That's also due to the MAP grant. Your other big expense is your salaries and benefits. There was a 3% increase for wages in 2023. That also includes the GASB and pension expense is also netted in there as well. One of the positives down under non-operating revenues, we talked about the fact that you had more money in CDs, but the rates were also up on CDs. And you can see that in your interest income, reflected in your interest income, the large increase over last year. So it's a nice positive on the income statement. Overall, your change in net position was fairly consistent with last year with negative 206. All right. The next page is your statement of cash flows. We kind of already touched on this when we were going through the statement of position. Two of the highlights here, if you look at the cash flows from operating activities, there was more issuance of notes receivable in the current year, of about $500,000 that were issued. And then down under the cash flows from investing activities, there was more purchases of CDs in the current year. And if you kind of take a look at those in those different areas, that really accounts for a good fluctuation of what happened in your cash in the current year. Those are some of the bigger drivers. Overall, your ending cash position was just over $1 million. Or I guess just under 1.1 if you want to look at it a different way. So. All right. Note 7 gets in, or page 7 gets into your financial statement footnotes. These, for the most part, are fairly consistent with the prior year and are fairly boilerplate year over year. Note 1 is your summary of significant accounting policies. There was no new accounting policies adopted this year, and this note does stay fairly consistent year over year, and that goes from pages 7, 8, and on to page 9. Note 2 talks about some details on transactions on classes amounts. For the most part, most of the things I've already covered and talked about. Some of the highlights of your financial statements are included in this note 2. What's included in restricted cash on page 10 is the gain revolving loan program, down from last year. Top of page 11, we talk about the fair value hierarchy of your investments, how those are determined. And when we were going through the income statement activity, we did talk about the different changes in grant revenue. And as you can see, $183,000 of that was related to the MAP program. And the balance of that from the $53,000 was the gain revolving loan program.
So essentially, there's $40,000 balance in the gain loan program, and I just went by the building today where we put in $200,000. It's coming up 2 stories. I mean, it's really looking just exactly like the concept did when the board approved the project.
That's great. On page 12, we start the pension obligations footnote. These come right off the actuary reports with the GASB reports. Nothing significant to report here. And those go over a number of pages, go all the way through page 15. Page 16 wraps up your notes. Note 3 is the land held for investment. It's balance of $281,000. It's held at costs. Note 4 talks about the net pension unrestricted position. Note 5 is the outstanding bond issues footnote. It's consistent with the previous years. Note 6 talks about the fact that you've entered into various lease agreements. And note 7 is the fact that you implemented GASB 87, which is the lease standard for governmental accounting. And the disclosure continues on to page 17. Note 8 is the reclassifications footnote. Each year when we prep financial statements, sometimes items might move from one line item to another. This is just saying there was no change in the total numbers of the financial statements. It was just reclassifications. No adjustments were made. That's the core set of your financial statements. After that, we get into some of the required supplemental schedules for the pension liability. And that's on page 18 and 19. Talk about the different measurement dates. And then there's an actual footnote disclosure to go along with those schedules on page 20. And then we've got your combining financial statements, which tie back to the front. On pages 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, and 26. So really, and then we've got a number of pages with the schedule of revenue bonds issued by the agency. Those go through pages 27 through 35, I think. 34. The last piece of the report here is the independent auditor's report on internal control. And this is also the unmodified opinion on your internal control report as well. So overall, I think that if you want to kind of step back and look at what we reported here today, the biggest thing is you have an unmodified opinion. We didn't have any control deficiencies noted. Overall clean, the records were available, and it was a very smooth audit. So just want to thank the team for all their efforts. So.
No, thank you, Chris. You guys have been very, very easy to work with, and the fact that you give us a lot of heads up in terms of here's what we're going to be looking for. We're not cramming it. When I say we, I'm talking about these people next to me. Everyone knows that. I don't even need to tell you how good they are. But it gives them a chance, not at the last minute, to have everything ready and available. And, so that's good that we can trickle that in there as this stuff comes in. And it's not your first rodeo at EFPR for working with IDAs. And
Yeah.
I know Joe likes his IDA work very much.
Yeah, Joe's a government person, so he has a lot of experience. So, and I know he really enjoys working with your team. So
He's getting so good with us now, he's not even here very long. We don't even reserve an office for him anymore. We just put him in a closet somewhere.
gets him out of here quicker. So
No heat, no
yeah,
electric.
that's how you get rid of your auditors. So
It's kind of cold in here today. I don't know if you noticed that.
I can feel the chill. So.
Well,
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll leave these, and then if you just want to sign them and scan them.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
See you.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
See you.
Take care.
Next is to review the IDA 23
We need,
investment
can you
report.
please give us a motion for approval for that?
For the audit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna approve the BAC one when we get to that one as well.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the audit presented by EFPR Group, the official audit for the IDA for 2023?
Make the motion.
Motion by Jim,
Second.
second by Nikki. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, now we'll move on to the investment report.
Yeah, in your packet, you'll find the investment report that is pretty much cut and dried in terms of what we're able to invest in. He touched, the auditor touched on the CD investment. As you can see, it worked out really well with the rates the way they were this year, and helped us out a lot with in terms of some revenue. But every year, we're requested to have the board approve the investment report, so there's really nothing out of the ordinary, other than we try to stagger them as much as possible in case the need comes up and need to use some money.
What is the latest CD rate?
The last one we did was a 3-month at 4.7.
Correct.
Wow.
That's what it's been, hasn't
It's
increased.
starting to come down a little bit.
Okay. Any questions? This is just a review and we need to approve
We
it.
need to prove
Correct.
it, yeah.
Someone like to make a motion to approve the investment report for 2023.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the investment report for the IDA for 2023. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
The rates, Jim. I see a difference. I can't recall how one was. Personal, you get 4.7. Commercial or something, they drop down to 4.3. I get involved in some of that. I don't know if I understand that 100%. I thought I was gonna get 4.7.
Didn't work out that way.
I didn't, for what I was doing, no.
Well, it's still not time to put it in the mattress yet, right, Joe?
No.
I could go into the potato business. They have too much cash around. You know?
Boy, that, we're on TV, I can't do it.
That's right.
Okay. Next is the approval of the annual MOU with the Wyoming County Chamber of Commerce for business attraction marketing services. Jim, you want to talk about it for a second?
Sure. In the packet is the MOU that we do every year with the chamber. It's $5,000. The chamber is an integral part of our business attraction marketing activities for economic development. As you may recall, at one time there was a larger amount of like 17.5 that used to be for marketing, and we kind of split that and stole Scott as a part-time employee since he's doing most of the marketing for us anyways. But there's still some items that remain that do cost some money in terms of advertising and some other things that we're working on. So I would encourage the board to please approve the annual investment of $5,000 for marketing for the Wyoming County Chamber.
Very good. I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the MOU with the Wyoming County Chamber for business attraction and marketing services. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, action items. We have sales tax extension requests for 3 different entities. Jim, you want to go over that?
Sure. The first one is Silver Lock, and there is a email in your packet from Mike Bellamy. As you know, he had phased in that project over a number of a couple of years, recognizing that the cash outlay for everything you want to do at once was going to be huge. So subsequently, he's been asking for extensions on the sales tax as he adds to it. If you read his email, you can see that this is the 3rd and final phase of this project, and he's installing the final rental units that he's been approved for on his property. And as with every project, and I talked to Doug about this before the meeting, it seems like every project has been slowed by either financial challenges and or supply issues and things of that nature. So Mike is asking for an extension for 1 year that would expire on December 31st, 2024. So at the end of the year. And as long as we're on him, and item B is also his. It's in the same email. We had approved a sales tax exemption only for him for his Letchworth Base Camp project, which is located over on Main Street in Perry, where he's refurbishing a couple of buildings that were in bad, he calls them distressed. I would say they were almost ready to fall in.
They were.
So he saved them, and he's getting close to the end of finishing those up. And he hopes to have them online this summer. So it'll be a nice addition to see some those buildings open and available to the public this summer. So again, on that one, he's asking for an extension until April of 2025 as he wraps up the final work on those two buildings as well. So I guess for the board's consideration, you know, if there's interest in extending both of them, probably could package them up as one motion, both A and B.
I would move that.
Are there any problems with the way the state, or some state talk about the IDAs and the sales tax issues? Are there any issues going on with extending this like this?
No, once you
project.
approve the exemption, the organization files an ST60 with the state. So from an administrative standpoint, we have to amend that and just alert to the state that the project has been extended. So it's happens quite a bit, actually. I mean, Robin would speak to it better than me, perhaps, because Robin really does all that.
I had asked a few years ago, there was one of our businesses that wanted to extend their sales tax, and we hadn't heard from them, so it had been actually a year or so in between. So I called them to see what the process was, if we had to reapprove it or whatever, and she said, no, she says, it's up to your board. If your board feels comfortable doing that, they can, by all means, they can extend it, and it's fine. So.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made and seconded to approve sales tax extensions for both the Civil Lycan project and the Letchworth Base Camp project. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The,
Letchworth Valley, Jim.
yeah, the third item, sales tax exemption request, is from Billy Proetti, Merrimack's Properties, also known as Letchworth Valley Campground and Resort, the former church camp in Pike that he's converting into a public campground and RV park. This project is, it's had some bumps along the way, both from a financial standpoint, in terms of kind of the bank not coming through on some of the financing that he had hoped they would. We came in with some funding through the BAC, as you know. Right now, he is just trying to add some additional campsites and finish up some work that has been ongoing over there. He's had some delays with contractors and a variety of things, even though his email doesn't get into all that nitty gritty. We're going to be meeting next week, and I'll get some better details about what his future plans are there. But ideally, he wants to end up with at least initially 50 campsites and then an RV park as part of that first phase. But again, he's asking for an extension that would go until March of 2025, the end of March.
Okay. Any discussion? Someone would like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
Jim?
I'll second that.
Yeah. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Jim?
And just a quick rundown of some of the things that aren't ready to come to the IDA yet, but at least things I'm working on. The JV contracting project, by the way, I just want to let you know we are getting close to closing that out. We were really kind of delaying on the close until we made sure he had a suitable space for his showroom and that he was all equipped and ready to go with this whole rebath franchise that he has. So subsequently, Justin Britton has leased some warehousing space out of the former Shared Harvest building in Perry from Nick Gitzis. He's also renting a small office space, like a shared workspace, out of the building that's owned by Perry LLC on Main Street in Perry. And then he's working on the facility for the showroom. So everything is finally coming together. Now it's right down to the nitty gritty with council on the last few documents.
Yeah, well, in fact, we'll talk about one of those things in the BAC meeting.
Okay. So that's coming along. Also want to let you know, I met with Kyle Tallman. He's with Creative Food Ingredients. He's their continuous improvement manager. Kyle is the son of David Tallman, who used to be a supervisor for the town of Gainesville. Kyle and his wife actually were Xerox employees. They both came to Creative Food Ingredients. She's the CFO. He's the continuous improvement manager. And he's hit the ground running in terms of developing some plans on how he wants to further expand and improve that facility. So one of those things is changing the electrical service so he can get sufficient power to the back of the building. But he also shared with me some of his other future plans that will fall in line with some requests from the IDA for help. And as you know, we currently have a pilot with them, and we did 2 projects in a row with them actually. And the company continues to grow, so they're doing really well. I think I told the board I've been meeting with a guy from North Carolina who owns a kind of a heat transfer business, very similar to API. He used to be an employee of API. He learned of API closing, asked me for some contacts so he could talk with some people from API about possibly coming in, saving some of the jobs that are going to be displaced, buying some of the equipment, maybe even using one of the buildings. Well, those conversations kind of developed into actually a visit. He flew up here from North Carolina a couple weeks ago. We had coffee over an arcade, and he had a walkthrough of the facility and is pushing hard to see what can be done. But he's kind of a bird dogging kind of guy, and I'm hoping that he can pull something off there. It won't be to the level where API is, where they're laying off 130 people or hiring 130, but he can easily pick up some work. He makes a similar product to what API has, and I think therein lies the rub of him with the API, because they're trying to shift a lot of their customers to some of their other facilities they have, including the facility in China. And so his biggest pushback is from the transitional CFO that's based out of Chicago. But it's been interesting, and he hasn't given up hope yet, nor have I, but that's why you keep on plugging away on these things. I met with a guy who has a small spot in the former Jenny Lee Diner and Arcade. Doug, you may know where this is, right next to the barber shop. There's a sign in the window that says, "Sup, Chef."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, what is that all about?
Beats me.
So come to find out, it's a guy by the name of Alexander Dispense. He was a chef and used to work at Burncliffe and other places, but during the pandemic, he found himself unemployed. And so he started doing these videos, and he needed a studio space. So he set up a studio in that Jenny Lee Diner's small space that he's in, doing videos for cooking and primarily pizza. And his following kind of helped launch him into finding a business partner in Buffalo, where they're now manufacturing their own pizza crusts. And they're called Sup Chef. And that's where'd that name come from? He says, well, if you've ever been a chef and you call another chef at a restaurant, the first thing they say is, "Sup, Chef?" And I said, okay, that makes sense. But anyways, they got this pizza crust in places like Tops, and it's all ready to go, and you just kind of warm it up to room temperature, and you put your toppings on it, and away you go.
Is that the name brand? You said?
It is
Sunset Name Brand?
SUP Chef, CHEF,
Where's it manufactured at?
in Buffalo. He hooked up with a
This is the
baking.
corporate office there at the,
No, that's the studio. That's where all the magic is made. And, you know, I told him, I said, you know, I'm a weekend warrior chef myself. And I'm not really a chef, but I said, I bought an outdoor pizza oven. And I said, I can't find a crust to save my life that can deal with the high temps of 850 degrees. He walks over into this little chest freezer, pops open the lid, hands me like 6 or 7 little things of pizza dough. And he says, these are just state of the art. We don't have approval for them yet. You take them home and try them. So I haven't yet tried them, but he's an interesting guy. So his aspirations are greater than pizza dough and other things. He is an arcade guy. He lives in Chafee. And
oh, he's not really an arcade guy.
no, he's close. I mean, the business is there, or the studio. But he has built some really good connections, and he is interested in doing other things in the community, whether it be a restaurant, an arcade, or something else, maybe a community and sports center. He says there's not quite enough things to do here. He says if we can hit on the right thing, he says I'd be looking to you guys to help us out. You know, we can do some really good things here. So he's one of those young entrepreneurial guys where you got to stay plugged into. And I don't know, it was just refreshing to meet him and see some of his
Free
ideas.
dough.
Got some free dough, that's right. But, I also had a conversation with Val down here at Yummy. She is needed more space to make her own ice cream. So she now, because she's run out of room over here, went looking for space, she ended up at a space in Perry where she's going to be manufacturing larger volumes of ice cream for her shop. I've also continued discussions with the brokers for the 2 Pioneer Credit buildings. They have both been vacant for a long time. I'm getting frustrated with the brokers. You know, the building in Perry, I called the mayor the other day and said, you know, that building in Perry is zoned so you can't do advanced manufacturing or any sort of assembly work there. It's basically an office. I said, it's going to be hard to repurpose a building until you get the zoning fixed. So they're supposed to be working on the zoning change on that. But because these buildings are sitting empty and they're costing this company money, I said, I'm trying to get them to donate them to us, to one of our not-for-profits, take a tax exemption, especially given the fact what they have taken away from us in this community, over 1,000 jobs. And let us do something with them. And I have multiple interested parties in the wings if we could secure these buildings at a reasonable price. I've even, you know, I think I told the board, I even made an offer on one of the buildings in Arcade. And then the brokers changed and then that deal got lost. But I keep reminding these guys over and over again, here we are, you know, tax exemption, you know. So we'll see what happens. But, you know, one of the uses, there's a couple uses, is the adult workforce training that we don't have any of here in this county. So I think, you know, if we could get something that would work for that, that would be terrific. So we'll keep pushing on that and see if we can get some buildings donated. And the last thing I had was a local building supply company here in Warsaw is up for sale. Many people probably know who that is. And there is a potential buyer that now has a letter of intent that's pending. And if it comes through, they're going to be looking to the BAC for some help. And then there had some miscellaneous things here that we're involved with that aren't necessarily economic development projects, but are important. I want to let the board know the Maple Grove Enterprise and Kawiki Aronson, both in Arcade, are now fully back on the tax rolls with help from council. So they're back paying their full share. And Scott and I assisted the Best Center with a workforce training program for new businesses. And I think it was the first time in a long time we've seen the Best Center has some new leadership there, and they're coming out with some excellent training programs that aren't the old things that are not really well embraced. So we're excited about that. And then the USDA and Cooperative Extension asked me to be on a panel to provide financial resources stuff to the agricultural community. So we had a little workshop here in the building, and we talked about our game loan fund and all our loan programs. So that's my report. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Very good. Any questions for Jim? We don't need a motion for that, do we?
Nope.
Okay. All right, next is staff compensation discussion. The chairman, since he is not available, asked that we table this again until next month when more of the board members will be here, hopefully. Right, discussion now, because he wants to be part of it. He's the lead man, so I feel it's right to make that now. So
I just want to have a formal motion to table it.
one second.
Sure. Second.
Motion made and seconded to table the staff compensation discussion until the April meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried. Any other business? Next meeting, April 11th, 2024. We're adjourning the Wyoming County IDA board meeting.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
I
Opposed, carried. We're adjourned. Oh, thanks.